Hi, first grade. We're going to read the second part of her book, The Boy Who Loved Math. It's our biography. It's a true story about Paul Ados. And this is a picture of the cover that I found that I thought you might like to see what it looks like. Let's review our skill. Okay, we are still making connections to nonfiction text. What is it? A connection is when you think about something that you already know to help you understand what is happening in the text. We can make text to self connections, text to world connections, and text to text connections. How do we do it, you ask? Well, text to self, you ask, has anything in this text ever happened to me? Text to world, ask, what do I know is happening in the world that can help me understand what's happening in this text? And text to text, ask, has anything in this text ever happened in another text I've read? Why do we do it? Good readers make connections to help them understand the information in the text. All right, let's get busy. I know that our biography person, Paul, he was about 20 when we last left him. He really, really loved math. Let's see what he's doing now. When Paul was 21, some mathematicians asked him to go to England to work on his math. Could he survive in the outside world alone? He met mathematicians and they all went to dinner. Everyone else talked and ate, but Paul stared at his bread. He stared at his butter. He didn't know how to butter his bread. Finally, he took his knife and put some butter on it and spread it on his bread. Whew, he did it. It was hard work. Remember, Fräulein and his mother had been doing it for him all this time. Even though now he could butter his bread, he realized he didn't fit into the world in a regular way. He wasn't the kind of person to cook or clean or drive a car or have a wife and children. He wasn't the kind of person to live in one place and have one job. He was the kind of person to do math all of the time, and he still didn't follow rules. So he invented a new way to live. Here's what he did. Paul would get on an airplane with two small suitcases filled with everything he owned, a few clothes and some math notebooks. He might have $20 in his pocket or less. He flew from New York to Indiana to Los Angeles. He flew across the world from Toronto to Australia. I have no home, he declared. The world is my home. And wherever he went when he got there, the same thing would happen. A mathematician would meet him at the airport and they would take him home. The mathematician and Paul worked on math, and the mathematician played with, and Paul played with the mathematician's Alcyons. That's what Paul called children because an Alcyon is a very small amount in math. And Mama, just as Mama had done all over the world, the friends took care of Paul. They did his laundry, they cooked his food, and they even cut his grapefruit up and paid his bills. But Paul was not the easiest house. Oh, sorry. What's going on here? There it is. He made messes, big messes. One time he got impatient and he tried to open a carton of juice, tomato juice, with a knife. And he often woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning and said, "My brain is open." Matt, he was ready to do math. He wanted to do math about 19 hours a day. At the very bottom of this, it has 19 hours times 7 days in a week is 133 hours a week. Wow. What was Paul's life like? He traveled from city to city and he stayed with different mathematicians. The people stayed with him and they took care of him. So that's kind of interesting. That's not how most people live. So he was a really, really different person, but he did what he wanted to do. He did math all the time, all day long. Let's keep reading and see what else he does. Oh boy, one day when he was young, he broke a rule that got him into really big trouble. He climbed over a fence and to look at a radio tower. He got arrested by the police. They thought he was a spy, and the FBI thought he was a spy too. So after that, they spied on him for years. Really, he was just curious. You see the picture of him jumping over the fence. Why did his friends all over the world put up with him and take care of him, call him Uncle Paul, and love him? Because Paul Herreros was a genius. He shared what was in his brain. He helped people with their math problems and gave them more math problems to do. Plus, he was a math matchmaker. He introduced mathematicians, that is a big word for people who do math, all over the world to each other so they could work together. Paul knew that Paul and his friends did so much great math. They worked in math called number theory, combinations, and the probabilistic method and set theory. Paul showed his friends how to do this math in new and better ways. He even started some new kinds of math. Some of the math Paul and his friends worked on gave us better computers and better search engines on the computers and also better codes for spies to use. Wow, why was Paul such an important person? I think I just read it. I'll let you know to see if you were thinking the same thing. Paul was an important person because he brought so many mathematicians together and helped create new ways to do math. He even helped us with the computers that we use today. Wow, so that is really impressive. That's just one person. He made that difference. Let's continue and see what else he did. Uncle Paul was very generous with his brain and money. Whatever money he had, he gave away. He gave money to poor people and he offered prize money for unsolved math problems. Even when Paul got very old, he still did math. He did math while he played chess. He did math while he drank coffee. He drank lots and lots of coffee. He thought about math while he played ping pong with his best friend. Paul said he never wanted to stop doing math, and he didn't do it. To stop doing math, he said, was to die. So Paul left this world while he was in a math meeting. All over the world, mathematicians still talk about the love of Uncle Paul. Even people who never met him, they talk about their Herodes number. If you did math with Paul, you get an Herodes number of 1. If you work with someone who worked with Paul, you get a number of 2. People all around the world are proud of their math numbers. And this picture shows how all these people are connected. This is him right here in the yellow. Wow, wow. It says everybody wanted to work with Paul or they wanted to meet somebody that worked with Paul. Can you think of another biography what we have read that connects it? We're going to do a text to text connection. Does this remind you of anything? Hmm. Well, it reminds me a little bit of the Fibonacci. I know that they both did math, so that reminds me of that. I know that people did want to see him. If you remember in Fibonacci, he wanted to meet the king, and he did solve math problems for him. It reminded me of that, and it's just kind of interesting. Interesting. Let's see what we got here. Is there any more to the book? One more page. A long time ago, there was a boy who loved math. Numbers were his best friends. He grew up to be a man who loved math. Numbers and people were his best friends. But Herreros had no problem with that. So that is the end of our story. What is one text to text, book to book connection we've made today? And how did you help understand the story? I remember in the very beginning that Paul had hated school. And this made me think a little bit of Blockhead. and how he didn't like school. I think we talked about it before, but that really reminded me of that because they were both bored because they were so smart. They both knew that they weren't being challenged enough. So Paul and Fibonacci both probably wanted more challenge in school. Maybe you feel that way sometimes too. Maybe you think that what we're doing isn't enough, so I challenge you to challenge yourself. And maybe one day I can be reading a book about you, a famous mathematician. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be back tomorrow with a new one. Bye, first grade.